Aging is a part of life. There is no way around it. Every day, someone is celebrating a birthday and is one step closer to being that aging person. According to the textbook, Aging the Individual and Society, Hill and Barrow, the population of Americans 65 years and older has greatly exceeded the growth of population as a whole. And the oldest old, 85 years and older, are the most rapidly growing elderly age group. Until recently, the study of the aging America was the study of older white Americans who made up 90% of Americans, while many ethnic groups were ignored. In actuality, many ethnic minorities are elderly. So, as we look at a variety of ethnic groups, let's start with African Americans. This source is 2009 Census Current Population Survey, Annual and Social Economic Supplement. The black or the African Americans older population was 3.2 million in 2008 and is projected to grow over 9.9 million in 2050. In 2008, African American person made up 8.3% of the older population. By 2000, by 2050, the percent of older population that is African American is projected to account for 11% of the older population. In 2008, 50% of black elderly lived in 8 states: New York, Florida, California, Texas, Georgia, North Carolina, Illinois, and Virginia. Household containing families headed by black person age 65 reported a median income in 2008 of $35,025. The comparable figure for all older households was 44,188. Since 1960, the life expectancy at age 65 increased by 2.6 years for black men and 3.6 years for black women. Most black older person has at least one chronic condition and have many multiple conditions. Among the most frequently occurring condition among black elderly in 2005 and 2007 was hypertension, diagnosed arthritis, and all types of heart disease. Now we're going to look at Hispanics. Hispanic older population was 2.7 million in 2008 and is projected to grow to over 17 million by 2050. In 2008, Hispanics made up 6.8% of the older population. By 2050, the percent of the older population that is Hispanic is projected to account for 19.8% of the older population. In 2007, 65% of Hispanic older men lived with their spouses. 17% lived with other relatives. 3% lived with non-relatives, and 15% lived alone. Older Hispanic women 30 For older Hispanic women, 39% lived with their spouses, 33% lived with other relatives, and 2 lived and not with non-relatives, and 26 lived alone. Household containing families headed by a Hispanic person 65 years plus reported a median income in 2008 of 33,418, as compared to 46,720 for non-Hispanic whites. Among such Hispanic households, 19% had an income less than 15,000, compared to 5% for non-Hispanic white family households, and 48% had incomes of 35,000. The following information is provided by the Department of Health and Human Services and the Administration of Aging. The Asian, the Hawaiian, and Pacific Island older population was over 1.3 million in 2008 and is projected to grow to over 7.6 million by 2050. By 2050, the percent of the older population that is Asian, Hawaiian, and Pacific Island is projected to account for 8.6% of the older population. In 2008, almost 60% of Asian, Hawaiian, and Pacific Island elderly lived in just 3 states: California, Hawaii, and New York. Other states with significant population included Texas, New Jersey, Illinois, Washington, and Florida. In 2008, 84% of older Asian men lived with their spouses, 6% lived with other relatives, 2% lived with non-relatives, and 8% lived alone. For older Asian women, 47% lived with their spouses, 30% lived with other relatives, and 3% lived with non-relatives, and 20% lived alone. Household containing families headed by an Asian person aged 65 plus reported a median in 2008 of 48,000. The comparable figure for all other households was 44,188. Asian men was 18,518 and 11,501 for personal income. The comparable figures for all elderly were 25,503 for men and 15,559 for women. The poverty rate in 2008 for Asian elderly was 65 years and older was 12%. Now we're going to look at Native Americans. The American Indian and Native American Alaskan older population was 212,605 in 2007 and has projected to grow to almost 918,000 by 2050. In 2007, American Indians and Native Alaskans older person made up 0.6% of the older population. An additional 156,794 persons 65 and older consider themselves to be American Indian or Alaska Natives, along with other race criteria, for a total of 369,399 persons 65 years and older who report American Indian or Alaskan Native heritage. By 2050, the percentage of older population that is American Indian and Native Alaskan is projected to account for 1.0% of the older population. In 2007, 51% of American Indian and Alaskan Native elderly lived in just 6 states: California, Oklahoma, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and North Carolina.
Someday you wish upon a star, wake up